Welcome back, everyone. Hope you're having a great day today. I've got my friend James Becker. His shirt says Fusion, but I know it's kind of the mic's blocking the S.
I'll stand
But
up.
there you
There
go,
you
Fusion Growth Partners.
go.
Is a longtime friend of
I,
mine.
I'm starting to take wardrobe tips from you now.
Dude, look, black, and then
Listen, I'm just saying,
it's
the
you know how to
success
show up.
leaves clues. So I'm trying to be more like you.
You're funny. You're funny. For everyone joining us, thank you. We're going to be talking about three things that will change your real estate life forever. A little bit about James. James runs a great organization where he helps real estate agents by providing them with the right resources to grow their business, focused a lot on your database. So they help with different types of touches, connections, and they really fund your growth. So I'm excited to talk to him because he's involved with agents on a very financially intimate level, and you get a different take when you're working with agents in that way. So, James, you've seen, I'm sure, a lot of different types of situations when it comes to agents that say they want to succeed, but then show otherwise. And then right?
No.
And then agents that really put in the work and they succeed and they do a magnificent job. So James, when it comes to this topic, the three things that will change your real estate life forever, where would we start? And where do you want to start with this?
Well, I thank you for the nice introduction. Just to give a little bit more background on why someone might feel that this would be worthwhile to listen to is one, of course, Tristan is, I think, one of the best leaders in all of real estate. Just you've done an amazing job after following these last few years, Tristan. So
Thanks,
I'm
man.
really humbled to share a microphone with you, so to speak. Our organization has over 700 agents in it.
Wow.
I would say that we are the number one self-funded mega team in the United States, doing over $6 billion last year, close to 12,000 closed transactions. And when we bring on a client, Tristan, we have 15 business fundamentals that we preach to them over and over and over again. And the very first fundamental, which is just going to sound ridiculous to people, but to me, I harp on it all the time because people kind of say, yeah, whatever.
Hmm.
But the number one fundamental is an agent has to become the real estate agent that they would actually hire. And if
Mm.
someone could actually do this and actually work towards this goal of being the real estate agent that they would want to hire, that would solve so many problems. And I'll give you an example. So sometimes I don't speak as often as you do, but I've had some opportunities to speak, and I'll ask people, if you were going to list your home, would you hire you? And everybody raises their hand and says yes. And to me, it's delusional because if you didn't know you and you go into your office, some of these KW office, for example, or Berkshire Hathaway offices have 50, 100 people in the office. I used to work at Lions, they'd have 200 people in an office. And there were absolute real estate beasts, right?
Yeah.
If you lived on the peninsula in San Francisco, would you hire you or would you hire Ken DeLeon?
Mm.
Right? Ken DeLeon brings a barista out. He'll fix your fence. He'll fix the fixtures. He'll clean your windows. He does a ton of services, all for nothing. And if he double ends the property, it's only one commission, only one side of the commission.
Wow.
And he only takes a 39-day listing. He's been one of the top teams in the entire country year after year after year after year.
Hmm.
And so if you're saying, like, if I knew I was competing against Ken DeLeon, man, that would be a difficult, particularly if I was following him, right? And so to me, if someone could say, all right, what if I was truly going to hire somebody, what is it that I would want from that agent? So Tristan, I'm going to ask you, if you were not a real estate agent, but you knew the business, what would you want in the person that you would hire to represent you?
Man, I love the question, first of all. Would you hire yourself, right? Or be the company that you wish you were if you were going to hire them? I love that. And for me, I'm thinking I need someone who is going to be looking slightly ahead of where I want to be. That's number one. And who's looking out for my best interest because I'm hiring you because I don't know what I don't know. So those are the two things that come to mind up front, man. As a real estate agent, I'm saying, okay, well, where's the market going? How should I price my home to sell it the fastest possible in the fastest possible time and with the least amount of hassle and still get me hopefully the most money or close to the most money as possible. And that's what I'm looking for. But I think it comes down to don't screw me over. I need to trust you.
You need to trust somebody. Well, you need someone who knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
right? You want someone who is going to be trustworthy. You want someone who's going to do an excellent job of marketing the property, probably. You want someone who's going to be good at negotiating contracts, someone who's going to partner, someone who is going to protect you in that agreement.
Mm-hmm.
You probably want someone who's going to charge you fairly for the services rendered.
Mm.
You
You know what?
probably want to have, go ahead, Tristan.
As everyone's listening in, I want you guys to be thinking about the same thing that James said, because this gives you an opportunity to write them down and say, who would I hire? In fact, who would I want to represent me? Like, who do I want to show up as? If you want to be that person, it's a great little outline, James. As I'm listening, I'm like, yeah, this is good. I like it. You made me think a little bit
Well,
more.
if I can, you know everything, so if I can impress you just a little bit, I think I'm doing okay. I got a few more things.
All right.
What about an agent that actually answers his phone or her phone? What about an agent that returns telephone calls? Not only to their client, but to agents that want to show the client or show their property or has some interest and some follow-up. How many agents take a listing and agents are calling and they never call back?
Yeah.
What kind of representation is that? And so if someone goes through this exercise, which I think is a critically important exercise,
Mm-hmm.
is that your listing presentation can then be built around this. And so we teach a listing presentation that basically says, if I was meeting with you, Tristan, I'd say, Tristan, when I first started in the business, I am ambitious. I wanted to do great. And so I put myself on your side of the kitchen table, which I'm not. You're there now, but I put myself down. I asked myself, what is it I would want if I was on that side of the table? And what I came up with is someone who wanted to aggressively market the property, someone who had experience, someone that had backup and support, a team, because I
Mhm.
know one person can't be there all the time, someone who answers the phone, somebody who cares, someone's going to charge me fairly for the amount of money. And so as I did that, those are the things that were important to me. Now, Tristan, before I move on, I've built my service around there, but are there any other issues that you might have that are different than those? And almost 90% of the time, people say, nope, that pretty much covers it. You now have a pretty strong bond because you're coming from the other side of that kitchen table. You're on that side of the kitchen table. And then if you build your services specifically around all of those things, which I'm going to get into the next topic,
Mhm.
if you can do that, you've got the good start of the business. But I want to go back because there's a spiritual element to this, Tristan, that I think is really important. You know, and it's if if you actually put in the hard work to be the agent you would hire, which is hard, to be a top agent, to perform at a top level, it takes a lot of work, does it not?
Oh, dude.
And, and a lot of sacrifice. Like you're giving up family time to be able to do this, you're giving up yourself, you're putting yourself out there. And there's a mindset that starts to happen when you go, gosh, I like these people, if they choose somebody else, they're going to lose out. Nobody is going to work harder for them than I am. And when you start to believe that you want the ball, that you're the guy at the end of the basketball game that says, give me the ball, I am going to put it in the hoop. There is
Mhm.
something that happens. It's like that X factor when someone's on America's Got Talent. They just have that confidence,
Mhm.
but it has to be earned. It's not a gift. And so to me, I don't know. Have you ever seen that where someone they just believe so much in themselves because of the work that they've done that it
Yeah.
manifests a tremendous amount of success?
I have seen that because it lifts them up. You lift yourself up internally and you realize that you have to show up at a different level for yourself. And when you do that, you show up at a different level for other people. I think that's what you're talking about too. It's part of really saying, hey, I guess it's up to me, right? It's not it's not up to anywhere else. That's why I love where you start with this be the company that you would hire, right?
Be the
That's
agent you would hire. Yeah.
that's a powerful one, man.
Okay. So let's go to the next one. These are not in order
No
of my
problem. Well, you've got
15.
15, so we're just going to cover the great three here.
Okay. So the next one is um I'll come back to that one. Okay. Okay. Number six in my business, fundamental.
Number, all right.
We believe businesses grow consistently through repetitive routines and process. We believe businesses grow consistently through repetitive routines and process. So let's just take Starbucks.
Yep.
All that is routine. You go in, you have a language, you order the venti, you give your order, you already know to walk down the end of the line, they call your drink. The customers are a part of that process. They know how to work that process. So they
Mm-hmm.
open the store, they come in, there's a process of the clients come in, there's order to that process. People know what they are going to get. You can be in San Francisco, get on JetBlue, go to New York and get the exact same drink in New York City that you got in San Francisco. That is that's a part of what that branding. It's not based upon the barista that's behind the counter. It is a system and a process. And because people can rely on getting the same thing, they go to all of these stores consistently. And then they close down the store and the trucks come in and they replace the food and they do all of that stuff. So, ordinary things done consistently over time create extraordinary results. And as an industry, we want magic to happen immediately. And I've never seen that happen. Not in a sustainable way. And so consistent repetitive routines. So I'm going to go back to that first thing that we were talking about, the services that you would provide for your buyer or for your seller. You have a presentation, and then what you do is you create processes to make sure all of the things that you're supposed to do, you do them in a consistent fashion. You have checklists. There's a book that's recently been put out called the Checklist Manifesto. Have you read that?
I have.
Okay. And the highest level of professionals use checklists to make sure stuff is getting done. And so this is a proactive process. But if someone says, okay, I'm going to become the agent that I would hire by providing value and then creating that in a process. When I get the client, I get the listing signed, I send a thank you letter, I start the marketing processes. Here's all the checklists on the marketing processes. I'm going to have the broker open. Here's all the processes for that. And you start building up these processes that are repetitive routines. And I'm going to come back to that if you just will remind me as we're going through this repetitive stuff, because I'm going to kind of talk about how you actually build a business or a team that would be helpful utilizing these repetitive processes. But I'm going to go to the third thing, and then we can, talk in more detail here, but they all kind of dovetail in together. And the third thing is that we believe in, excuse me. I skipped over.
No problem. While you,
okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, the very first quote that you brought up, or the first saying, I'm trying to find the quote from Charlie Munger that
I love Charlie Munger.
Like, he said this similar thing, and I'm like,
yeah,
dude, that stood out in
ordinary
Charlie.
things done consistently provide extraordinary results.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, so the third thing we're going to talk about is a real estate agent is, in my mind, the CEO of their business. And it is their job, talking about Charlie Munger, the CEO must allocate capital. That's what a CEO does. So if you're the GM if you're the CEO of General Motors, what are the assets that you have? You have a labor force, you have factories, you have cash, you have all these different things. And the CEO's job is to allocate those resources to get the highest return on what they have. That's what a CEO has to do. If you're a real estate agent and you don't have all of those assets, what do you have that you have to allocate?
Well, your services, whatever you provide specifically,
Your time is your greatest asset. Your time is your greatest value, and so many agents don't really grasp this. So I want to talk about this for a minute. So would you, Tristan, invest in a business that did not do bookkeeping on the cash that was coming in?
No, because then I'd have to.
Okay.
It's a
Would
massive.
you invest in a friend's business that was a restaurant, but they never did inventory on their food or liquor?
Yeah, no.
Okay. How many agents truly understand where they are allocating their time on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, on a percentage basis?
Dude, I probably say you have the percentage number, or are we
I
guessing?
don't I have a guess. I have a
Oh,
guess based upon what I've seen.
my guess would be I'm gonna go a little high. Let's go with 20%.
I would say it's less than 1%.
Yeah.
Of when I am talking with agents, particularly new agents coming, I ask them, what did you do yesterday? Most people cannot answer that question. Clearly, they can't answer that question for the week before. The ones that can, their production is significantly higher than the average bear by far. So what I want to suggest here, Tristan, is that you wouldn't invest, but if let's say I'm talking to an agent and you have a number of businesses, you manage a lot, you control your time. This is one of the reasons why you're wildly successful. But your time has to be placed in things that are going to produce the highest return, or you have diminishing value, right? That's what Charles Munger would say.
Yep.
And so the time is so darn important. But we, as a group, as an industry, have no idea what we're doing with that time. None. And we're not trying to figure it even out. And so we're worried about commissions and the new buyer thing. It's like that's on the list of problems. That's so far down the list if you want to run a business like a business. So I'm going to come back to this for a minute. There is, and how much time do we have left, Tristan?
We've got about 10 minutes left, man.
Okay. So I'll get through this and then we can have a little bit more of a discussion. There are
Okay.
two things that I think are really fascinating that actually Elon Musk, as I was listening to him on a podcast, really made me ponder, like, this is really interesting. And the interviewer said, what is the value of your time? And he goes, well, it depends on the perspective I'm looking at it. Because if I look at the future value of my time and what I do today, it could be worth tens of millions of dollars per second. So think about that. What you get paid on an hourly rate or for selling a home is a certain amount. So let's say it takes 200 hours to sell a home. Probably on average, it's about $100 an hour that an agent is getting paid. But if you are looking at this and you say, okay, I'm building routines and processes. So number one, I'm going to become the agent that I should hire. I've got these value system. I start building out these checklists. I make it routine processes, right? That have checklists. And now I need to allocate my time. If my time is worth $100 an hour, everything in those checklists that could go to someone who's willing to work for $10 an hour if they're offshore, or $20 or $25 an hour here, every single hour that you are doing that work, that you could get paid more money doing something else, let's say it's $100 an hour, and you could pay someone to do it for $20 an hour, you're losing $80 an hour. $80 an hour. So this is what Charles Munger talks about. If I take an investment in capital and I put it into something that I can get 15% on, they want to do that as much as possible. But if I put it into bonds or cash and I'm getting 2%, they're losing 13% on an annual basis. And so as as a business person, if you're looking at your business as a business and
Mm-hmm.
you are not really understanding the value of your time, not just for today, but if you built an SOP, Tristan, that you could then turn over to somebody else, how much value does that have long term? So for me, we do hundreds and thousands of things for our clients. And every single one of them has a very detailed system, procedure, and process for it. And there's no way that we could do these things if we did not have those processes. And so our business continues to grow, and the value of that business continues to grow far beyond what I would ever be able to charge on an hourly basis. So those are three concepts that kind of tie in together, being the agent that you would hire, building out what you do in systems, procedures, and processes so that you can do it consistently to develop a compounding effect, and then jealously guarding your time and spending time on things that produce the highest return, not just what you feel like doing them. So
Yeah.
those were the concepts that I thought would be worthwhile to share.
Dude, I love that. I think let's go back to the process, the processes. If we're looking at number two, the fundamentals, uh, you're saying the business grows through repetitive, consistent, and repetitive process. You're going over checklists. You brought up checklist manifesto. What are those processes that we should focus on that are giving us the most bang for our buck? What have you seen those are?
Well, one, to capitalize on the time, it should be simple, ordinary, repetitive, consistent routines that you can train someone else to do that you don't need to do. So the highest and best use of an agent is the nurturing and the interaction face to face with their clients. This is a relationship game. I think this is what protects us against AI in the future, and it's going to be a high touch. There's two industries that I think that this plays in. It's the financial services, as far as people having trust that they have someone who's building out a portfolio. There
Mm-hmm.
are AI companies like Vise that is building platforms for those people, AI platforms, but people still want someone who says, you know what, James, this is a good suggestion. This is a good way to go based upon what your goals are. So I'm not answering the question, but for instance, if you take a listing, you have to build out a flyer. There should be a very specific procedure and process for that. You should probably do some social media advertising in organic. What are those things? Are they going to be carousel ads? Are they going to be videos? Are there drones? Who's going to be shooting the photography? What is the communication that's going to be going out to the client once you've done all of that work? Is there a form letter for that to be able to drop all those things in? Who sends that out? Who actually prints that letter and folds it and stamps it and walks it to the mailbox and make sure that it gets out? It's overwhelming when you really get into the little tiny details, but you
Mm-hmm.
just have to start with one. And if you pull up Google Sheets or an Excel spreadsheet, you can then start putting in on a high level the most simple things. And then you can add in rows where you think, oh gosh, actually it's more detailed than that. And you can then start adding in those things from there. But that's some of those things. So Tristan, let me ask you, how many businesses are you running?
Um, Probably five big businesses right now.
Okay, that's significant. So for let's stay in the real estate realm. What are the things that you have that your team is doing on a routine basis?
The team, two different things. One you touched on, which was the communication piece. That's probably the biggest one, communicating with the people. That the only way we can set up a routine for that is to indicate at a certain time, certain day, there's an outreach that happens where somebody either gets on the phone or a meeting, right, to connect, because that connection is very powerful. On the back end, the routines that happen so that they happen daily, like I'll give you an example. Any videos I shoot that are high quality, those are exported, diced up, and then we've got shorts, we've got content from that. Can it be a course? Can it be a blog? That's all processed outside of me, right?
Yes, and in that process, is it not documented
It is documented.
very specifically? So for this webinar that we're doing today, you asked me if I wanted to do it. I graciously and humbly accepted. Then I had Jasmine who said, okay, I need this information from you. I had to get that information. And then she sent promotional material. She sent the links that I needed to be in there. She reminded me. So as you're talking about communication, either she came up with this documentation, but I'm assuming that someone in your organization said, these are all the things we need to do to make sure someone like James, who's
Yeah.
super busy, is going to show up on time and is going to be prepared with something to say.
Yeah, that's very true, man. Very true. I like that. So yes, it's these processes. Now for you listening in as a real estate agent, what are those processes for you? I would say, James, I would say they probably would have to start with their strengths and say, what are the repetitive tasks that we do that, let's say you're amazing at open houses. What's something we can outline so that every time I have an open house, I have a better chance of showing up to the best open house I can create? Here's the checklist for that. And what happens during and what happens after. So I think we can break them down into these big steps and then put in the right people or technology to be able to help us along the way.
But
Uh,
let's do a little exercise on that. So if I'm going to do an open house, I'm going to need to put out signs. I'm going to need to put it in MLS that says that there's going to be an open house. I'm going to probably want to run an ad geographically, maybe on Facebook, that this house is, you can't do that on Facebook, but let's say you're running some kind of advertisement that suggests that it's going to be open, and maybe get some balloons, maybe get some muffins or some cookies. And all of that stuff is $20 an hour work. What's better time spent? Well, better time spent is probably knocking on the homeowners that live around that area so that you can introduce and say, hey, I just want to invite you to the open house. There's always people around that are selling. That's not something that you can delegate. If you're in your area, that could be worth $50,000. One house, right?
Very true.
In where I live, it's probably closer to 12,000, right? And so the the element is all of that stuff could be handed off to a part-time person who could get everything set up, and so that you as an agent, your highest and best use is talking to friends, talking to your neighbors, talking to your prospects. Face-to-face activity. That is the thing that is impossible right now to replace. And that's what is going to generate income. And so if you're at the store buying cookies, I want the people that are listening to this to realize that they are losing $100 an hour if they are going out and buying cookies or blowing up balloons or putting out their own signs. In that case,
I like that, man.
that's the concept.
That is the concept. So then here, as we end, how does your company help with that? And what do they focus on?
Well, what we do is we invest in top producing real estate agents. We build out all the systems and processes. We individualize that for them. And then we run all of those operations, and we pay our staff to do it, and we get paid out of future revenue. And if I could just show something here real quick.
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
What we do is, let's see if it's sharing. Yep, there it is. So this is an analysis that people can go through. This is just something we knew we put in, but every single one of these things we provide for people. So we provide project manager, videographer, graphic designers, copywriters, video editors, listing managers, supervisor, listing marketers, execute. And then it goes through all of the different things that we do. You can actually find this list on growwithfusion.com. And I don't know if you can see this going down, but it lists about 400 different people or processes and procedures that we do on a consistent basis for our client, and we're doing it all pretty much automatically, including coaching and arguing. We do a lot of arguing with our clients because we want them to focus their time on the things that are going to make a difference. So I'm not going to go through all of that, but it is. What's that?
I love that. I said, that's crazy.
There is, to me, I am the company I would hire. I practice this, and I'll tell you, Tristan, when I first started and tried to do all of this, it was a crap show. I mean, we were trying to do so much, and we were very ambitious, but we've been doing this long enough and iterating and constantly trying to improve. If someone is between 5 million and 25 million and they want to really double their business and double their time, I can't imagine a better place for them, particularly if they're focused on sphere of influence, not online leads. We believe online leads have a diminishing return for most people, unless they run it like you do, where you're nurturing these leads for months after the fact, and then there's a higher return on those dollars. But thank you for allowing me to share a little bit about what we do.
Of course. I put up a link there if anybody's interested. I know, Carlos, you said the link for you wasn't working. So do me a favor, if you want to message me, if you missed any part of this, or you want me to connect you with James, we'll connect you with James. James, thanks so much, man. That was good. I took a lot of notes. In fact, I might make a little podcast because I run a daily podcast. I might do a little podcast on the summary of this. It was good. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I am honored to be invited here. I think you just do some amazing work, Tristan. You're wildly successful and really beloved universally in the industry, and that's very hard to do. So you are an inspiration to me. So thank you very much.
I appreciate that, man. Very kind of you. And thanks, everybody. Thanks for being in. If you have questions for
Thanks for
James,
listening. I hope I provided some value for somebody
you
who took the time here.
you did. You got some good stuff. If you want to reach out to James, James, what's your email address, or how do we get a hold of you specifically?
Go out to www.growwithfusion.com, fill out the form, and we can take it from there.
Got you. All right. I put it there. If you missed it, message me on Instagram. James, thank you so much. Everyone else, thanks for being on.